Welcome to your extra credit for week 12. So this is not a normal extra credit ed puzzle. This is me going over your segment 1 assessment, as well as I'm going to go over the segment 1 test. So there are 2. In order to get the extra credit, you must watch both videos. So let's review your assessment performance task. So under slide 3, we had define the terms below and using the ecosystem you chose, give examples of the organisms that fit into each category. The issue a majority of you were having, you did not actually define the term. You only told me examples. A producer is an organism that makes its own food using the energy from the sun. Examples would be from the grassland. If we go up a slide, the examples were the grass, trees, and leaves. If you were in the marine ecosystem, I can't read that, so we're just going to open this. Just going to open them all. And I'm actually going to end my little person up here. That way we're not bouncing back and forth too hard. All right, so then in the African grassland, as like I said, your producer were the grasses, the twigs, and the leaves. There was no other producer. As for the marine, your producer was the phytoplankton. As you look and see, there was no other producer. So your example should have only been phytoplankton or the grass, the twigs, and the leaves. A consumer is an organism that has to eat another in order to gain energy. Some of you wrote that it was a primary consumer or secondary, which isn't really the term. As well, I could tell a few of you just Googled what is a consumer, which I applaud you for using Google. You're using your resources in front of you, but that was a definition for what is considered a economic consumer. So somebody like humans, we buy things. That's also a consumer, but that's not the definition I was looking for. I was looking for an organism that eats another to get energy. In the grassland, you could have done a wildebeest, a lion, a zebra, a giraffe, a cheetah, or a baboon. In the marine, krill, zooplankton, cod, leopard seal, squid, elephant seal. And then a decomposer is an organism that breaks down dead or decaying material. A few of you lost points because you said the word eat. Decomposers don't eat. They break down dead or decaying material through a chemical reaction. In the grassland, it was your fungi. And then in the marine ecosystem, it was the bacteria. So that was slide 3. Again, I was also looking for full, complete sentences. Slide 4, create and label a food chain from your chosen ecosystem. Use the provided pictures of the organisms you chose to include in your food chain. Don't forget where all the energy in the ecosystem starts. The first thing most of you, if you got points off, is because you didn't move the sun first. The sun should have been right here at the very beginning. A few of you didn't, and you lost points. A few of you also dragged the fungi and said, well, the fungi was next. It was not. Remember, fungi is a decomposer. The next thing you should have dragged, if you were using the grassland, it was the grass. If it was the marine, it should have been the phytoplankton. Now, some of you were putting both, and that lost you points because you weren't following directions. This next part is where a lot of you start to lose even more points, is because you put all of the consumers right here. A food chain is a single linear line. It's showing one to another. It's not showing complex interactions. So some of you dragged and you put the giraffe and the zebra and the baboon. And you lost points for that because you're showing me more than one and you shouldn't have. So I'm going to drag the giraffe, and then over here, I probably would have dragged over the zooplankton. Now, again, you should not have had both. You should have had just one or the other. I'm showing you both though. And then I would have chosen the lion as my top apex predator, and probably the squid over here because I know the squid eats the zooplankton. All right, so it should have only had 4 pictures total within this slide. I'm sorry, I'm just backspacing here. So for slide 5, what are the significance of the arrows in a food chain or food web? What I was looking for is you to tell me that the arrows represent the movement of energy. It represents who is being eaten, who's doing the eating, and that shows the energy. If you had only said who's doing the eating, you lost a point because that's not the significance. The significance is the actual energy movement. What is the difference between a food chain and a food web? A lot of you are kind of getting stuck here. You would just say, well, it shows who eats who. Yes, they both show that. But a food chain is very simple, it is linear, and it shows a very direct interaction. A food web is a bunch of food chains that are interlinked, they overlap, they connect, and it shows a lot more interactions within the ecosystem. So I was looking for a little more than you gave me. Again, on this area, I did see a lot of you Googling the answer. Again, I don't mind if you Google the answer. That's what Google is there for. I Google things all the time. However, just copying and pasting from Google is considered plagiarism. Take what you're finding and put it in your own words. Now, this is our first big assessment, so I was a little more lenient on that. But when it comes to our next assessment, if I see it is copied, and I can tell you guys, I know how you talk. You all don't know some of these words, and I know you don't. Put it in your own words. If you don't, we are going to have some issues, and I'm going to report you for plagiarism. Now, slide 6 was you were just, remember, choosing one or the other. Some of you did lose points because you did both of the slides, and you should not have. Let's do the African grassland really quick. I'm just going to show you what I was looking for. It was only worth 4 points. First thing I looked for was an arrow from the sun to whatever the producer was. So if you didn't have an arrow from the sun to the grass, twigs, and leaves, you lost a point. I was looking for an arrow to every primary consumer from here, which was the giraffe, the wildebeest, the zebra, and was it the baboon? Let's look. And the baboon as well. So I was looking for at least, these 3, if not 4. Same goes for over here, that at least these 2 had the arrow. Most of you did not choose the marine. Most of you stuck with the grassland. Then I was looking to see that you connected the giraffe, the wildebeest, all of these to the lion or the cheetah. And then that the lion or the cheetah, or at least like 2 or 3 of the consumers, pointed towards the fungi. Now, some of you lost points because you had an arrow like this going from the lion to the giraffe. It was pointed in the wrong direction. So that's where a majority of you lost points, is you were missing sun to producer, your arrows were pointed the wrong direction, and you were missing from consumers to the decomposers. Now on to slide 9. How do consumers interact with the producers in your ecosystem? The producers are the limiting factor of the primary consumers. The primary consumers obviously use them for food, but they're also using them for other things like protection, places to, allow their young to grow. A lot of you just said the consumer eats the producers. Okay, but how is that an interaction? Are they mutually beneficial? Those were the words I was looking for. Identify and explain the role of decomposers in your chosen ecosystem. Again, some of you told me just what a decomposer does. You didn't identify what they were. Some of you also didn't really explain that decomposers restart the entire cycle. They're at the very end. The point of them is to put the nutrients back into the system. So again, you were giving me some basic parts, but you weren't doing the full thing. A majority of you, I would say, got in the 13, 14 out of 20 range, which isn't bad. It's not great. It's not bad. For our next segment, I'm telling you guys right now, you're not going to have a big unit test. You're going to have performance tasks. So make sure you're asking questions and you're truly answering the questions when they're given to you. All right. So this was part 1 of your extra credit for week 12, whatever week I end up giving this to you. I don't know. It's too early in the morning. I mean, it's 8:48, but it's too early for me. Way too early. All right, guys, I will see you on the video for the segment assessment. Bye, guys.